Hello, how are you?
Hey, good.
So, Big Boy and I are going to do a mock debate where he's going to magically transform into a anarcho-communist. Is that correct?
Essentially, yeah. Although the people I talk to who use this argument don't really buy, they don't really own that label, but
Okay.
that is essentially their view, yeah.
He's gonna uh promote the idea that property is theft, and I'm going to try to not have a brain aneurysm as we're talking. And
And I won't be framing it that way. I won't make it that easy for you.
sure. I'll
Not going to do the obvious stolen
I'll
concept.
Okay. Uh, yeah.
So
So
here's
let's get
kind
into
of
it.
I can give you my angle here. I'm going to approach this as someone who has bought into and agrees with you on all the basic objectivist fundamentals. So we're going to be egoists. Okay, there's not going to be any duties or obligations to others, no utilitarian function we're trying to satisfy. Okay, it's
Okay.
all self-interest is good.
Okay.
Reason is good. We're going to try to use reason. Um, and initiation of force is evil. So we can just agree on all that stuff right from the
Well,
outset.
that's quite a very little wiggle room at that point.
I'm very cooperative. Okay.
Okay. Go
And so
on.
here's how the argument goes.
Yep.
Say you think that you own something. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's pick some piece of property. You own a store and you own the items on the shelves. Okay, and you sell them to people.
Okay.
And I come in and I just walk up to a shelf and I take some stuff and I walk out of the store. Okay, so I've just taken your things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, in order to, if you don't want me to do that, the only way you can stop me is with force, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, that's all you can do. If I
Yes.
really want to take your stuff, you're not going to persuade me otherwise. So it is actually you who is the one initiating force in that case. I haven't done anything to you. Okay, I've just walked in your vicinity
Mm-hmm.
and grabbed some objects and
Mm-hmm.
then walked away with them. I haven't hurt you. I haven't assaulted you or punched you. Now, if you were guarding the objects with your body and I had to shove you out of the way to take them, then you would have a case to make. But you're not there. The store is run by some employees. I just kind of walk up and I take the stuff and I walk away. I don't hurt anybody. I don't break. I don't put anybody at risk or threaten anyone. Don't put anyone at gunpoint. I just take the stuff and walk away. And so, how can you justify then using violence to subdue me and take that stuff from me?
To justify it?
Yeah, because we
Well,
agree initiation of force is wrong. And so if you then tackle me or get your security to bring back the boxes of cereal that I took or whatever it is,
so let me
isn't
just
it you initiating force?
ask. So there is the concept of property rights,
Mm-hmm.
and are we ignoring that?
Right. That's what I'm attacking, that there is such a thing.
So attacking outright the concept of property right, and you're using
That's
this
right.
example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, well, I worked hard. I worked hard in my own labor, in my own mind. I used my own mind, sorry. I was able to then purchase the store at great risk, financial risk to myself. And I purchased stock and I put that stock on the shelf. That stock is mine. And I'm trying to make a living and sell those things, hopefully the profit, which I would then use to buy more stock. And you are stealing from me and making my life worse off. And as it is mine, as I have worked for it, as it is my property, I will have to initiate force, I
Okay.
guess. I would say that technically you have initiated force on my property, though. You have taken it without my permission.
Okay. Well, I haven't initiated force on your property. I mean, I haven't destroyed the cereal boxes. I've just taken them and I'm using them for their purpose, which is
Correct.
to be eaten.
The taken element is the taken without permission is that false.
So why does that constitute force? I understand why if I punch you or shove you out of the way to take things, that's force and attacking your body. Why is it force for me to pick up something in your vicinity and walk away with it?
Because it's mine. It belongs to me for either if I made it or I sold my services and then purchased it legally. And the only way you can take it from me is if you ask my permission from it, because I'm the one that gets to decide how it is used, disposed of, or functions. And you haven't done that. And you're not respecting my claim over these properties, and you're just taking it away. Therefore, you're initiating force and ignoring my claim over these properties.
So why do you demand that I be such an altruist? Why should I care what you think about these objects and who they belong to? We're egoists here. I want the stuff. I think it'll make my life better. Certainly, if I have the boxes of cereal, my life will be better than if I didn't have them. So why do I have this duty to you to make your life better? Shouldn't I just be trying to make my life better?
You don't have a duty to me to make my life better, but you cannot so you cannot force your way onto my life and make my life worse either. You can live your life and pursue your happiness, your own self-interest. I can pursue my life, my own self-interest. But when we come into conflict with one another, we need to have like a set of rules and agreements that we don't infringe on each other's rights. And property rights would be one of those ways to achieve that. And if you don't respect my claim or my rights or my desire to pursue my own happiness without infringing on yours, then we run into a conflict, and that conflict may or may not result in violence, which I'm sure you'd rather not
Well, if it
engage
results
in.
in violence, isn't that the fault of the person who initiates the violence?
If it whether
There's
it's
only when I take the cereal boxes, there's only a conflict if you make one.
From your perspective, being an egoist,
Uh-huh.
if you end up in a situation where you may or may not lose your life, is that not something you'd rather avoid?
Oh, sure. So I need to be careful when I take the things. If I think that you're the sort of person who might attack me if I take your stuff, then I might take from someone else or
So you choose someone who is weaker or less prone to violence?
Sure, yeah. I would need to be careful in my target selection. Self-preservation is important. But it's important to okay, let's put it this way. When you go in the woods and you chop down some trees to build a cabin, we wouldn't say that you've initiated force on those trees, right? It's a perfectly legitimate thing to do.
Yeah.
And I just see people as just another feature of the environment. They're just like trees. Trees grow fruit, and I pick the fruit and I eat it. People build factories that make boxes of cereal, and I take them and eat them. It's no different than plucking fruit off a tree.
There is a very big distinction from the stuff people make and your moral interactions with those people than something inert in nature.
Yeah, why is that difference relevant? Why should I care? So obviously people aren't trees. I mean, they're different things, of course, but I think in this respect, there's no relevant difference.
I mean, I guess the best reason why you should care is because people fight back.
So it's okay to take, if I can take something that you think belongs to you, as long as I'm strong enough, then there's no problem, right? I mean, egoistically, I have no duty to look out for the weak who can't defend their own property.
Well, if it's me and the friend guarding the property, then you have a problem.
Sure, yeah.
And if it's me guarding the property with some kind of mechanical advantage over your strength, then you also have a problem.
Mm-hmm. So there's the situation where you are strong enough to physically protect your property and make it yours through the threat of intimidation, basically.
Well, so basically, but I want to make the point that the idea of rights and laws is that we get to a place where we don't have to engage in this sort of behavior where we're like trigger happy to initiate force to protect our property. So from your point of view as an egoist, you should avoid stealing other people's property because you may get hurt.
So if my situation is dire, okay, so I'm not doing very well in life, and although people around me have organized to set up defense mechanisms, there are still some who are more vulnerable. It might be in my interest to try to take from those people, from like a risk-reward standpoint.
I don't think so. I think even from a risk-reward standpoint, it still isn't that good for you, or disadvantageous for you. I would say that if you need the help of other people in society, because you can have a situation where, you know, they would agree to give you the property, but you'd have to negotiate it with them. So for example, because we have the concept of property rights, which you are attacking, but you know it exists, because
other
someone
people
has,
believe in it, yeah.
Because you know theoretically of it, I'm sure. If someone has the right to a certain property and they have the right to use or dispose of it, or basically have the rights to it, you can ask them if you can either have something or borrow something or lend something, and then they would be the arbitrators whether they want to or not. Whereas if it was what we have at the moment, for example, what the government decides, so the government takes some property from people into itself, and then you, for example, can negotiate or should negotiate with the government if they will help you in your situation, and they will decide if they want to or not, or can.
So let me think for a moment.
Sure.
Let's bring it down to like a concrete example that's realistic. There are parts of the world and parts of the US right now where openly you will not be prosecuted if you steal under a certain dollar value of merchandise. And we're seeing people going in and looting stores, and I'm sure you've seen the videos of this.
Yes.
So, and in those cases, the employees of those stores also don't fight back physically. I mean, it's
Yes.
not really their place to put their physical safety on the line to try to deter some burglars, right? So why is it not in my interest in that case to steal? I'm openly not going to be prosecuted. I know I'm not going to be met with physical resistance. I have the support of a mob of other people who are all also stealing at the same time as me. So if anything, I have the strength in numbers and the force advantage. So why should I, in that case, not steal from the store?
Well,
because that's more of the situation I'm thinking of.
I would say this. So this is a relatively new situation. So we're gonna have to. I believe it's new. So we're gonna have.
Well, this is essentially the situation I was thinking of the entire time. There's another situation where the shop owner has a shotgun under the desk and he's got his boys out front. Okay, I'm not going to try to take from that place, right?
Okay.
They've set up to intimidate me so that I don't take their stuff, and so that's fine. I won't bother with that. But so we're talking. I'm trying to isolate something here. You know, I'm not concerned about my own physical safety imminently. I'm not concerned with prosecution by law enforcement. None of that. Why should I still care?
So I would say this with regards to the example. It is a relatively new situation. The other example you gave, where there's a store owner with a shotgun under the counter, is something that we kind of transcended in society. In most cases, obviously, it still happens, but the reason why people now walk into shops take the stuff is because we no longer they no longer have the shotgun under the counter because they believe they're being protected by the police, and there's been a change of laws where the police under the prosecutor under a certain dollar amount, and then people just come into the store, they grab a few things. No one wants to get into an altercation with them, although they can. It could be the case that may happen, but let's assume it doesn't.
Almost never does. Yeah.
Those people, get filmed. I'm not sure if that does too much. Let's say potentially it may cause some social repercussions, and then they walk out and leave the store. So from a long-term point of view, that's unsustainable. And we've already seen cases where these shops have closed down and left the California area. So I'm thinking specifically, I believe, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but Target has closed down all their
there's many examples.
and have left. Meaning, the more yourself and other people do this, the less of these stores will remain available. Those who do remain available may start enforcing their own policing, and it's a unique situation that's current influx at the moment. But I don't think you can use it as a long-term philosophical argument.
Sure. So I agree that people in general doing this long-term causes a lot of economic damage. Definitely.
But from your selfish point of view, if those stores close down next to you, and you won't have any opportunity to buy stuff, either legitimately or illegitimately, you'll either have to travel a very long distance, or you'll have to move outright because of the situation in the area where you're living.
So I have a few points to make about this, and we can talk about whichever you find most interesting.
Okay.
The first is that I'm only one person and I'm only stealing a very small amount, as I'm trying to not get prosecuted. I'm trying to stay under the dollar amount. My actions won't make a difference as to whether the store closes or not. It's such a small impact from me individually, and yet the material benefit to me is very large. If I steal this small amount from several different stores, I can accumulate what would normally take me months or maybe years to earn at work. Could improve my life a lot. So that's one point. Second, if I'm worried about decimating my neighborhood, I could just travel a little bit to do the stealing. And then if stores close down further away, well, I can't steal from them anymore, but that's okay because I still got something out of them. If they'd closed down from other people stealing from them before I got a chance, that would certainly be worse off. So that kind of ties into the first point, that the stores are going to close anyway because so many people are stealing from them. My one person stealing is not going to make the difference either way. I might as well get mine while I have the chance. And then finally, this long-term view, in the long run, we're all dead. And thinking super, super long-term about the economy seems like a duty argument to me, that I have some duty to the economy in the future. When really I can just, grab what I can for a while, keep doing that. And then by the time the long-term repercussions roll around, I'll be 80 anyway. So who cares?
Well, I think you should care, because again, the situation where you are living now is in flux and will change. You can have a situation very quickly where you have some Asian people on rooftops with rifles, preventing you from running away from the store because they're protecting their property. And at some point, even if that chance is low, or let's say you try to avoid it, it can happen. And that means in the short term, your life could end abruptly. And I'm sure that even from a long-term egoistic perspective, that isn't something you're looking for. If you travel further to loot a store, then you may be encountering a district where the police will stop you, because they don't have those laws anymore.
Yeah, we'll say so. I don't live in one of these California areas where they've laxed the laws, and I'm traveling to those areas to steal, right? That's sort of what I meant.
I see.
Yeah. So I'm from out of town, and I hear that the laws are lax in XYZ county, and so I go over there to do my stealing.
Actually,
And then I come home.
that's a super interesting point, because that like
This is often what happens, really, though, because it's the big cities who go lax on the laws, and kids drive in from like teenagers drive in from the suburbs to steal from them, fully knowing that if the area goes to crap, they don't care because they can go back to their little gated community and not have to worry about it. That's what happened with a lot of the rioting in 2020. People came in from out of town to steal, and then they went back home, and who cares? What does it matter to them if the city goes to crap? They don't live there.
Well, that's fair. I mean,
what about the important point there was what about the point about me as one person not making that big of a difference? Whether or not those stores are going to close or the people are going to get on rooftops with their rifles, it's not going to be my one act of stealing $200 worth of stuff that's going to cause that response. That's a response to an overwhelming number of people doing things like this, in which I'm just a grain of sand. I mean, I'm not going to move the needle there.
Well, why do you think other people won't think similar to you, and you'd be a grain of sand in a pile of sand that's heading towards the store? And
I can't control what they do. It's not like they're watching me and copying my actions.
Right, but I'm saying from your own point of view, if you are part of a group of people, even unknowingly, if you're part of a group of people doing this, that has a certain effect on the shop serving these goods, and then they take forceful action, then even though it's just you and it's under $200, but you're like the 15th person doing it, then they don't like it anymore.
Well, but I mean, if is the difference between 14 and 15 really that big? I mean,
start, maybe, yeah.
It may be that I am the tipping point, the one, the one vote that tips the scales, but it's highly unlikely.
It's not highly unlikely. You're the one evaluating risk to your own self, and you're the one taking the risk. So if you go into a store, and let's say you're the third person to rob it, but the person before you used deadly force, and the owner isn't having it anymore, and they do decide to have a shotgun under the counter, and they're already like psyched up from the person before you, because the person before you was super violent, and you're not. Arguably, you're not super violent, but the person before you was super violent, and they just don't want to take any risk because of that experience.
Yeah, so you're saying that it's possible for me to misjudge the situation and think that it's going to be safe when in fact it's very dangerous.
Just that's from the store point of view. So if, assuming you do this in an area the police can't prosecute you, but if you do it in an area the police can, or you misjudge that, then you have that additional risk.
Yeah. So putting that stuff aside,
I do wonder.
It's just fear of immediate physical reprisal that should stop me? Is there no other? Because you're talking a bit about like how I should respect people's property rights, and then what I'm hearing is that, well, really, you should just like make sure that you don't get shot by an angry shopkeeper while you do this, but otherwise it would be okay. Is there some reason besides fear of immediate physical reprisal why I should not do this?
Well, yes, there are reasons why these property laws are in place. Would you like to discuss them?
Well, not reasons why the laws are in place, because in these areas they aren't in place, right? There is no law protecting property in the case I'm discussing.
Would you say, though, that even though the laws aren't in place in those areas, would you say that there's a reason why people behave morally towards one another?
I'm not sure what you mean. People come to like agreements where they can both benefit. Yeah, they do that. It's important to cooperate with other people.
Right, and if, like, for example, someone does something that you would consider immoral to you, you wouldn't be happy about that, and you may take certain action against it. But the point is that these laws of morality between interactions between people is what we're discussing here.
Mm-hmm.
Now specifically I'm discussing from an egoistic point of view, that if you don't respect these laws or unaware of them entirely, then you may get the brunt of someone's response to you violating those laws.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying laws on paper, I'm saying moral laws between people.
Sure. So can I let me see if I understand what you're saying. Because other people believe in property rights and have made arrangements with each other and have certain social expectations, they feel ready to enforce those rights through violence. And I can't really know in advance the extent to which they're going to do that in any given case. And so I need to play it safe and just never steal. Is that basically what you're saying?
I mean, I suppose so. Can I just ask, why are you not upset if someone steals from you?
Oh, I definitely am. Definitely upset if someone steals from me.
So what, but you don't believe in property rights?
Yeah, I don't I don't believe in other people's property rights. And I don't
Why?
believe in my own property rights. I just think, if there's something that I want and someone else takes it, then of course that's going to make me sad because I wanted the thing. But that doesn't mean I have to believe in any kind of mystical construct like rights.
Mystical? Why do you think it's mystical?
Well, I mean, you can't. It's just something you've made up. I can't see it. I don't know where it comes from. I can't observe rights. Don't really know what it means.
But you can observe people's, you can observe the fact that people behave as if those rights exist.
Well, people get mad when you take things that they want, right?
Would you get mad if people take things that you want?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why is that?
Because I wanted the things, and if they take them, then I can't have them, right?
What's wrong with that?
Um,
They wanted it more.
okay, but I don't have a duty to them. I'm only looking out for myself.
So
I don't care how they feel.
You're upset that someone took your things. Now you don't have them, and that may affect your life, your happiness.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. But
So
and I care about my life and happiness, but I don't care about other people's.
so
We're egoists after all.
So just from a logical point of view, if everyone in society feels the same way you do about losing their own property, yeah,
Uh-huh.
then
Yeah, they don't yeah, they have things that you keep using the word property. They have things that they want, right?
sure.
And there's things that I want. And if we both want the same thing, the one of us who doesn't get it is going to be sad, obviously.
I don't know about
So those are the observational facts on the ground.
It's not so much the wanting, it's that they produce something, either the thing itself, they either made it, or they made or worked somewhere which gave them money and the ability to purchase something. It's no longer a matter of want. They already received and are taking care of and own that thing.
Yeah. But why should I care where the stuff came from?
Well, so if you were to carry on this course, you would acknowledge that this belongs to you, and then you would care about it being taken by someone else.
Yes, things that I make are things that I want. That's why I made them, obviously. And so then, of course, since I want them, then I would be sad if someone took them.
What is this abstraction of want? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, you can directly observe yourself wanting things. I don't find that a mystical abstraction. I mean, you get hungry, so you want food.
No, sorry. Why
so
is there? Sorry, I meant to ask.
Yeah.
There is the property that you own, but it's not that you don't feel like that you own your own property. You feel that you're a step removed from it. You want it. And if someone else wants it more, then they take it away from you.
Yeah, more specifically, I want to use it. So I have a computer because of all the things I want to use the computer for, right? And if someone comes and takes that computer, then I can't use it for those things anymore because it's gone. And so that bothers me.
Okay.
Now, say there's a computer at a library, right? And anybody can just sit down and use it, and then they get up and then someone else sits down and uses it. I don't get upset when someone uses one of those computers because I know I'll be able to use it when I need it, right? But if someone came and took that computer away, well, then I would be sad because now I can't use it anymore, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, there's just, I mean, if we talk about getting our concepts from observation, from reality, like objectivists want to do, I see that there are things that I want because of things I want to use them for. And I see that if other people take those things, then it's harder for me to use them. I would have to go take them back, which is a lot of extra work, obviously, that I don't want to do. So sometimes it's nice to have things that, you know, are nearby and easy to access. But
Well,
at
why
the end of the day, it's just things that I want.
why
to
would
use.
you have to take them back? Why not you know,
Or I could take another one. I mean, that someone else has. Sure.
why would you not either make it yourself or work
Or I could do that. Yeah.
and,
It
and
would
purchase
require
them?
more work from me. Yeah. Which is why I'm sad when they take it, because now there's the prospect of me having to do extra steps before I can use it again.
Okay.
Okay, here, let's take a time out and go back to reality.
I'm not I have a feeling you're trying to get me to a particular answer. And
So
kind
I
of
have a particular answer in mind.
okay.
That is what I would use. I'm not going to pretend that I'm like some kind of expert. But if you want, we can discuss, because there's a whole actually area of thought that you're focusing a lot on, like rights and social interaction and like political systems and law enforcement. And I think all of that is good and important to understand, but I don't think it cuts at the core of what a person like this is saying.
So bear in mind one thing. I'm familiar with the idea of natural rights and rights that we arrive through, you know, objective moral reasoning. And the rights are formed around that. So even, for example, if you take the Lockean concept of rights, which was originally based on, well, God gave you these rights, and then you used reason, and then you got these moral concepts, and then you apply these moral concepts in a social setting, which are rights in a legal sense. But I am wondering,
yes,
in debate,
and there's a reason why we need Rand, because his argument doesn't work. And I think I think his argument is losing to the one that I'm giving now, which is someone just walking up, shrugging, and saying, "Why should I care about nature and taking your stuff?"
so let's talk about you know the core issue. But
yeah.
bear in mind, it's not always easy to teach people mid debate new things.
Yeah, so I just want to direct your attention, because I think you'll see what I'm talking about in just a minute.
Okay.
So the whole notion of thinking about property rights and politics and violence is actually an enormous red herring in this topic. It actually is not what you should talk about at all. And what you should really be talking about is egoism. Such a person making this argument claims to be an egoist, but is not actually. And it's because they don't understand happiness. They don't understand what causes happiness. And they are an egoist from a materialist point of view. They see, I will maximize my happiness by acquiring material things and consuming them.
Okay.
And they think that that's where happiness comes from, and that's wrong. And Rand and other objectivists have identified that it's not consumption that causes happiness, but production. And so what an honest person understands is they can look at the times in their life when they are genuinely fulfilled and happy, and it's the times when they are producing things, when they're being creative, when they're acquiring knowledge, when they're doing work that is meaningful and long range. That's what really makes you happy. And consumption is essentially a form of relaxation that only makes you happy as a form of recovery from those other things. Everyone knows that a big meal tastes better after a day of hard work. Everyone's had that experience where you just, you think really hard about something, you get your juices burning, you run a couple hours past dinner, you're starving. Man, that meal is really good, right?
What if
Whereas the
what if
glutton who stuffs his face without working the food doesn't make him happy anymore.
Sure. What about this? So the idea in Marxism, for example,
Hmm.
was when communism takes effect, and or if communism takes effect. But when they expect communism to take effect, you have so much of these consumer goods or ability or commodity goods
Hmm.
that you just basically have hobbies in your free
Hmm.
time. Like you can. So they would say you can be productive. You can do anything you want. In fact, you can do um, more of the things that you are passionate about because you don't have to go to a. I mean, I don't know if it's in this context because we're just stealing. It's just petty theft, but
Hmm.
in general, like you would say, if you don't have any requirements, material requirements to live,
Hmm.
that's taken care of. Then you could fish in the morning. You could be a brain surgeon in the evening. You could do anything it is that you're passionate about. Or everyone wants to be a poet. No one wants to make food, like farm food.
Yeah, uh-huh.
But
I know what you're saying. They imagine that once, let's put it this way, once food, clothing, and shelter are like air,
mhm.
then as in you can just, passively absorb it, essentially. Um, Once that occurs, setting aside if that even could ever occur, um, but once that occurs, then you'll, engage in other productive tasks, right? Um, and that's where you'll get your fulfillment from. Uh, so they're still accepting then that it is the productivity that makes you happy, right?
Oh, I see your point.
Yeah, they've already accepted that point. They actually know that that's true. Um, what they what the Marxist is confused about, well, they're confused about many things, but one thing that they're confused about here is they don't think that production of the requirements of life can be happiness providing in the same way. Um, they don't think that knowing that you produced something that you're consuming or produced an equivalent that you traded for it, they don't think that will make you any happier than just absorbing it like it's air. Okay. And I guess the response to that would be, well, you breathe right now. How happy does breathing make you? It doesn't really. It's a very neutral activity. You get very upset if you can't breathe, but it's not like you go outside, take some deep breaths and think about them and your like mood improves, right? So, did you follow that okay?
Yeah, I understood it.
Yeah.
I guess we're
So
reverse.
actually, if you make all of those things like air,
Yeah.
um, then all you've done is just, well, to say it in a kind of sloppy way, you've just broadened the category of air, right? And now there will be new things taking the place of those old things. Like right now, there are things we need to live that we just absorb from the environment. There are things
Mhm.
we need to live that we have to produce. And then there's things that we don't need to live, but that we need to produce to pursue happiness. Um, so all they're doing is broadening that first group, and then
Well,
there will
that
still be things in the second group. Um, Maybe you live to 120, and
mhm.
now once you get past 100, there are new kinds of cancer unknown to us now that begin to set in at very, very old ages, and now we need medical care for that, and now that's a new scarce resource that life requires.
So
So,
let's reverse the devil advocate roles between us.
oh yeah, sure,
And because I just studied Marxism a bit, and I can imagine what they will say.
yeah,
But
sure.
but you're right. So so yeah, there is what they would probably say, or I'll just say in their own position. So that, well, look,
Hmm.
everyone's on minimum wage. Yeah, they're all working two, three jobs.
Hmm.
They don't have time to enjoy life. They'll just
Hmm.
subsisting subsisting on the bare minimum wage that they can get, and usually that's not enough to pay for rent, and food. And in those kinds of people, in this situation, are perfectly okay to steal things to just survive, just barely survive. And they're not in a situation to live life happily. And like, I guess you can make the claim that stealing would make them less happy, but yeah, so they first need to exist. They first need the resources. We're not
Hmm.
even in a situation where they can live happily. uh, or basically we are in the negative utilitarian sense of they are suffering and they need these resources.
Hmm. So you're saying they are so impoverished materially
Mhm.
that they um, can't do anything but work in ways that don't make them happy.
The
That they
work
just kind of have to sustain their life sort of automatically through rote procedures to get a small wage that they then use to buy like the bare minimum that they need to keep their metabolism going.
the work the only work that they're able to get from the evil capitalists
Hmm.
is barely allows them to survive, which is like basically the immiseration of the proletariat. So
Hmm. And
they
are you making a descriptive claim that this is true of many people today? Because I don't think that's remotely true, is it?
I don't know, I don't think it's remotely true, but they would make this
Okay,
claim.
so we're imagining some time in the past then.
No, they would say it's now, but they would like blow it up of proportion.
Uh,
And if you disagree, you're a heartless, evil person.
yeah, sure. Um, well,
Think of the
let's make
children.
it more interesting then, and think. Let's make it about a time in the past. Um, very because if we go far enough back in the past, almost everyone's existence was this way. If we go back a thousand or 2,000 years, I mean, it's even worse, right?
Yep,
Um, then
2,000 years. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
it's pretty bad. You're not
Oh, actually, wait.
doing a
That's
lot.
actually no. Wait. 2,000. No, sorry. 2,000 years ago, everything was perfect. Nature was abundant. We
Oh
were
my
all
God.
living in primitive communism,
Yeah.
and we shared everything. There was scarcity here and there, but there wasn't like these huge income inequalities we see at the moment. Uh, and it was peaceful and agrarian, and everyone was happy most
Yeah,
of
and
the
they had
time.
universal health care, right?
They did not have universal. I don't know. That's a good question, actually. I never asked them that.
Well,
They did not have
well,
universal
if
healthcare
they
back
did,
then.
it wouldn't consist of very many services, right? I mean, if you got if you had an abscess in your tooth back then, you were basically a goner, right? That's the end of your life.
This is true, but
Yeah, it's not very
they
good.
didn't have to fight for they didn't have to fight for food between other people. They would just
Hmm.
share all the food they would find.
So you think that's an improvement? You no longer have to work. Um, you no longer well, okay. You probably are still working a little bit. To be, it's not like you're sitting around and people are waiting on you, right? So you're
Yep,
still working.
you work, but
Um,
you work for the collective, for the
yeah.
group.
Mhm. So
Sorry.
you're still working.
Yep,
But maybe you think you're getting a better return on your time for working.
absolutely.
Um, but if you get a minor infection, then you die. You think that's better, huh?
I don't think that's better, but I think that if we use
Well, you said
today's
everything was perfect, so
sure, there is still there is still the concept of technology, and we perfected these things. Maybe when we ate a healthy organic diet, we wouldn't get any issues with teeth, because it will just be perfect, and nature provides and is abundant.
uh-huh.
But let's take it, let's bring it today, where we have all these technologies which we could just liberate and share.
Hmm.
between everyone and live harmoniously, just like we did back then.
Hmm. Well, we might not have time for this because that's like a whole bunch of descriptive claims, right? That we would have to flesh out
Well,
about
just the bullet
whether
points
this
then.
can be done and what it would consist of and what steps would need to be taken, and then going down to the individual level of, say you are one of these minimum wage workers.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially what it comes down to is you're in this pretty tough situation. Is the situation where you pick up arms to overthrow the state to bring about your communist revolution? Is that life going to be better than the one you're living now? And I highly
By the
doubt
way,
the Civil War life is an improvement.
am I being an okay devil's advocate, or am I doing it too much?
Oh, it's fine. I'm not worried about it.
Did I take
It's
points that you haven't heard before, or
no.
okay?
But I think it's a bit. I want to get back to the core.
Oh, I'm
The reason
stretching.
I
I'm
wanted to,
out of scope. Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, a little bit, but it's okay. It's not a big deal. Because um, I think the communist, like Marxist communist position is a bit boring because, and not like as an attack on you for bringing it up, because it's just they make a bunch of descriptive claims that just aren't true, and you kind of have to attack those first to kind of break out of their fantasy world and then have a real conversation.
Okay.
Whereas I think the anarchist argument I was giving before, the people who use this don't call themselves anarcho-communists; they just call themselves anarchists,
Okay.
or anarchist egoists, and I find their argument, although I think it's wrong, more interesting because
Okay.
it doesn't have a million things wrong with it like Marxism does. It has a few very important things wrong with it. And if you don't put your finger on exactly what those few things are, then they actually come out looking really strong. Because they just shrug. You start talking about rights and abstractions, and they just shrug their shoulders and say, "Who cares? I'm gonna take the stuff, and then I'm gonna eat it, and it's gonna make me happy. I don't give a shit." And it's very hard to get past that. And so you actually have to go to the root of that and say, "Wait a minute, will that actually make you happy?" And that's where you have to go. Will
Let's say,
that kind of existence actually make you happy today? Will driving to California to go steal from stores
hmm
instead of getting a job or doing something creative or whatever else you could be doing with that time, is that really what's going to make you happy?
so
In the next year, the next 5 years.
I have a problem with this approach.
Mm-hmm.
So I think principally, I think it's very clever. I have a problem with the execution of it.
Uh-huh.
This is it. It can either work. You have two options of how it can come out. It will either work very well, and you're like life coaching someone on how to live a better life
Mm-hmm.
mid debate,
Yep.
or they LOL roll for lame from that
Yes,
point on,
but
and just kind of mock you.
if they respond that way,
Yeah,
then you hang up on them.
but
And
it's very
that's
if they're tribalistic,
mhm.
they'll just
Then there's no conversation to be had.
I've
And
recently
this is something that Peikoff will tell you in one of the first OPAR lectures is, he has his hypothetical of the person who says, "Why should I care about contradiction? I'm perfectly fine contradicting myself." And he says, "What do you say to such a person?" "Well, you stop the conversation and you walk away." At some point, a person is dishonest enough
Mhm.
that as much as you don't want to take the L on the internet, you have to just hang up on them. Say, okay, if this is like, for example, if someone tells you, "No, I think I will be perfectly happy for the next 50 years running around town, figuring out which stores I can loot and taking from them, and that will be my profession, and I think that will be a happy existence for me." And then you try to give them a few reasons why you think that's not going to be a very good life. And if they say,
Mhm.
"No, it sounds good to me," then at that point, you just have to say, "Okay, I think you're wrong. I hope you introspect and realize that that's not a very good life. Um, but I can't force you to admit that if you are adamant about it." Because at the end of the day, they're talking about their own happiness, right? And you can't force them with words to say a certain thing about that. If they want to lie about their own introspection, then that's just the end of the conversation. And
I
all
see.
you can do is, as a good objectivist, is set an example and say, look, I hope that you introspect, you look at your life and you think about the things that have made you happy, and you look at what they have in common, and you realize that this life is not going to be like the things that make you happy. It's not really what you want. And you have to hope that they see that, and you can try to be persuasive about it, and you can try to tell compelling stories to get them to see that. But if they just are so set on the W that they're not even going to do the introspection, or they're not going to do it honestly, or they're going to do it evasively, then it's over. I mean, you have nothing left to say to them.
I mean, that's a fair point. How would you say there's a benefit to I mean, you can make the claim for the audience at the very least.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do. You say, you audience member, think about my opponent here refuses to introspect honestly. I encourage you to do so.
I
think
have
about
done
your
that.
life, and yeah,
I
exactly.
have done that mid debate.
I think that's very effective.
Yeah.
Especially because you can cast your opponent as a dishonest buffoon, and you can even use those words. It's like, I think he's lying about this, and just say that. A great example of this is Sam Harris's latest argument against free will.
Okay.
Where he says that when he introspects, he doesn't even feel like he makes choices.
What does that even mean?
Well, exactly. So, because a lot of objectivists will say, like, first introspect, notice that you make choices, right? You can just see yourself deliberating between alternatives, weighing possibilities, selecting an option, right? You can just see this. And Sam Harris says, no, I can't. You can't talk to such a person because he's just lying. But it's not, it's his own introspection. So it's not like someone who's lying saying this ball is blue, where you can hold it up to the audience and show them that it's red and be like, this guy's lying. Okay.
Is he outright lying? Because I've heard him speak.
Well, on that point, he is. I think he has many other points where he's saying what he really believes.
So
I think
he's
this
evading
point,
in this sense.
Yeah, he's evading. So maybe lying is kind of a strong word, is too conscious, but it's an evasion. Yeah, he's to be as charitably as possible, he's persuaded himself that these are intelligent words to say, and he's mouthing them while blanking out their meaning. Yeah, which I'm shortcutting that and calling it lying.
Okay,
that might be a bit of a mean word.
By the way, for our audience at home, I just want to make a small disclaimer. Big Boy is perhaps a more advanced objectivist than I am. I consider myself a student of objectivism at this point.
Well, I'm definitely that too, but I've been digging in pretty hard for the last 3 or 4 years. So, yeah, and so I've had some good conversations with my past self, because I used to be many other things that I was very convinced about. And so that's why this honesty argument is so important to me, because what really drew me to it is when I stopped thinking, oh, how can I answer this argument? Like, how can I coerce someone with my words out of this position? And started thinking, is that really what I believe? Is that really what I think? Like, when I introspect, is that really how it seems to me? That's the key to issues like free will and happiness. And just stop and think about what it is like to be you. And don't think about how you could convince someone else of any of it. Just, be a real egoist.
I mean, sometimes when I go into these debates, obviously we're discussing ideas, and I do sometimes tailor my responses to the person, which I think I was doing here. And try to see the world through their eyes, and maybe convince them of something. I'm not always successful, but it does lend to a more fun debate, more interesting debate. It's calmer usually. We don't get like really angry. I'm not saying it always works, and I'm not saying I never get angry, but typically,
and there can be some value in that. Yeah. I think my approach is similar, but it's more like I approach a debate or a conversation with someone that I think is very wrong about something philosophically as I'm trying to help them. They're very confused in a way that's hurting them and making their life worse. Oof. And I communicate to them. It's like, I think you're wrong about this, and I think that your life will be better if I can help you understand how you're wrong. And so the whole framing of the conversation is, I'm not trying to dunk on you or show that you're wrong. I'm trying to help you improve your life, because I think that if you see the light on this issue, your life will be better. And that's why it's easy for me to end the conversation, because I can say, well, it's become clear to me that you have no interest in improving your life in this way. And so we're done talking then, I guess. And that's why I never frame them as debates. I always just call them conversations.
I only give up on a conversation, on a debate, sorry, if well, I won't give up on a debate in any case. Like I'll just like fast forward it to the end or something. I'd say let's just go to closing, because if someone's being like straw manning and being ridiculous, and it's repetitive, like it's the same arguments, then I'll close it. But if it's a discussion, and the thing is, I'm not sure if people know, but my name Philosophical Zombie Hunter is because I originally, when I came up with the name, was I was looking for philosophical zombies, but not in the context of the philosophical experiments of someone without like a P zombie, but someone who's like an NPC, or someone who's subsumed by an ideology, and that you can predict what they're gonna say. So you have all the so in a sense you have all the shortcuts, you know, the talking points in advance, and even, you know, to some degree we will have this problem too, although I try to zigzag a bit, not make it too easy. But when I have these discussions with people, I can see them in advance. Like I know the talking points, I know the replies to the talking points. But if it's like repetitive and they're not getting the point, even though I'm very directly answering their points, because I'll try to be like conservatives with the number of words I use. I'll try to be very targeted. And if they don't pick it up, then and they're just repeating themselves, then I will end the conversation, because I'll find it boring.
Yeah.
And it's like they're obtuse to some degree, but yeah.
And that's why I think debating politics can be really frustrating, because I have trouble figuring out why we're even having the conversation. You know, when we talk about philosophy generally, to me, philosophy is a tool for improving your life, or for living a happy life. That's the whole point of doing it. And politics is many, many layers of abstraction from that. How should society be organized to make me happy, or to enable me to pursue my happiness more accurately? That's a pretty complex question. And so, but politics is, you know, it's easy to find people who disagree with you on politics, but I'd encourage you to try to cut your disagreement down to the deepest philosophical level you can and have it there. Like with this issue, the conversation isn't about property, it's about happiness. And you have to identify that and then have the conversation about happiness.
So I wanted to say something here. So I agree with you. I don't typically do politics outright. Like I won't discuss certain topics in politics at all. But economics I do discuss quite a bit. So for example, a lot of the stuff that's in the media right now, I just avoid. Not because I don't have an opinion on it, I just don't. It won't be on my channel, or in the debates that I pick. But the thing that I would like to do is I try to do in debates is I do try to take like the semi-political, semi-economic, and then like take it down to fundamentals, to principles, and explain what that is. So for example, let's say I have a welfare debate with you, and I say these people are suffering, so negative utilitarian, these people are suffering. We need to help them. We need to tax people more. We need to do all these things to remove people's property rights, and you know, then they'll suffer less. And you say, well, actually, in your point right now, they won't be happy if you do that. They just won't be happy. They which is not like, you know, like light years away from reality. We say, look, they actually want opportunities. They want to leave the house. They don't want to, or they won't have a happy life if they stay at home and just receive checks at best. Does it have a
Yes,
sort
this
of?
is Euron's argument, and I think that it's terrible.
You think it's terrible? Okay,
Not
go
in
on.
that it's wrong, because I think there's some truth to it, but I don't think it's. I think that is not when you try to change the argument to happiness, you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. You're looking at it from our perspective still, and I want you to look at it from their perspective as someone voting for the welfare policy, as someone who is to receive it. Okay, so not from our perspective as someone voting for the policy so that other people can receive it, right? But look at it from their perspective. Okay.
The people that are for these welfare policies, they've never met the people that receive these
Yes.
welfare.
So now imagine that you are one of those people and you're thinking, okay, there's this policy that's going to give me these food stamps, right?
Okay.
Should I support this policy? And then you'll see that it's identical to the stealing from the shop issue.
Sure, but because it's a very narrow observation, like should I ask the government to give these food stamps, yes or no?
Uh-huh.
Then like the whole chain of events was lost. You're just narrowly focusing
No,
on.
because now you can ask, okay, how do we determine what will make someone happy, right? I mean, who are you to say what will make these people happy? Surely they know better than you. And look, we've just reasoned that they rationally ought not support these policies for themselves. So who are you to tell them what will make them happy and impose this policy on them when they rationally wouldn't support it for themselves?
I don't even think they'll argue for making them more happy. I think they'll argue for making them suffer less.
Oh, or we can frame it that way too. I think it still works.
Well, I think it depends. I don't think it's I don't. So why do you think it's a bad way that Euron does it?
Because I don't think it. I think you need to already have a very nuanced understanding of happiness to buy that point.
You want to take them a bit further up the chain of philosophy.
Yeah, I think he is giving his audience too much credit with that point. Because I think it's true, but I don't think you can see that it's true unless you already are on the same page as him with many other things.
I see.
And so I think it's not wrong. It's just not good pedagogically. It's not instructive.
Do you think that to some degree there's some sort of internal primitive or primal, reaction to say, no, actually, I do want to be useful. I do want to be productive. I don't like staying at home watching TV all the time. Actually,
Yeah,
maybe
I mean,
maybe the people who advocate for this do stay at home all the time and watch TV. I'm sorry, go on the internet.
yeah, well, there are people who, because they never introspect about what makes them happy, they think that a life of sloth would make them happy, which is why what you need to do with these people is get them to do that introspection. And they'll realize that their life as it is now, where they work some of the day and then relax the rest of the day, and both are unfulfilling, that just making the whole day the relaxing, unfulfilling part is not going to make them feel fulfilled. And what they need is meaningful work and meaningful production, in like producing their values.
Do you think that so if
There's a
so
reason all these people are openly depressed, by the way.
sure.
And so you can tap into that too. It can be a bit rude and you have to be tactful about it. But it's like, you insist that X, Y, and Z will make you happy. And yet you have a lot of access to those things right now and they don't seem to be making you any happier. Maybe you should think about that a little bit. And you just have to poke them like that. You can't say, and therefore you're wrong about your own happiness. You have to say, I encourage you to really think about this. And, I know that right now when you eat ice cream, like you like that, but do you really think if you ate ice cream all day instead of doing your job that would really be the bliss that you think it is?
Yeah, I can already see people lame like LOLing mid debate, like what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Son?
but that's because they're children.
You know what? I was LOL'd in the middle of debate by raising the concept of collectivism. They outright rejected it, and I saw even in other debates when you. So this is a bit leaving the scope, but within the scope of just raising a new concept mid debate, they'll just reject it.
Uh-huh.
Like you say collectivism, you explain what it is, you explain how you need them to understand what it is so you can continue the conversation. They'll just reject it.
Yeah. Well, that's a big abstraction. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Um, I think, and this is why I don't know how old you are, but I don't think I was capable of understanding these ideas until I was 26. Um, because I don't think I'd introspected enough. You need the inductive evidence of any
Yeah.
concept to really understand it. And to understand happiness, you need the inductive evidence of introspection over many years. And maybe if you're really bright and you're really good at introspecting, you might not have to be 26. Maybe that was just me. But I don't think I had done enough thinking about my own life until that point to really sit down and say, yeah, a life of sitting at my desk playing League all day while I eat free food really wouldn't be that fun, would it?
What do you mean?
And
Like
and I like,
I can
I
play
play
World of
League with
Warcraft
friends
for
every now
years.
and then, and it's fun, but I don't want that to be my whole life.
Does First of all, I appreciate the compliment of you thinking I'm younger than I actually am.
Oh,
Um,
I actually couldn't even guess a number.
no, no.
I have no idea.
I appear childlike, admit it. Um,
No, not at all. Especially
I
when
have
people have accents, I actually can't tell how old they are at all.
I must have a youthful. No, I don't know what I have. I remember once regarding playing League all day. I remember there was a podcast a while ago called "A Life Well Wasted," where they discuss people who played video game, like certain video games for a very long time or designed them
Yeah,
into video games. But I'm wondering now that you the way that you framed it, I am wondering if the people I'm debating are college students who've never actually worked
yeah. Hmm.
and they've just been told what to do, like go to class, do this.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
I teach high school students,
yeah,
and they get a lot of lefty material nonsense propaganda from some of their teachers. Um, there's some truth to the fact that there's a lot of indoctrination going on. Um, and all I can do with them when they raise these issues with me is I can just lay breadcrumbs that hopefully they find one day. Introspection breadcrumbs. I'll say, um, here are my hobbies, and here are the ones that I really get the most out of. Do you see why that is? And so I list, there's these games that I play, there's teaching you guys, there's learning new things, raising my son. Okay, and I make a big list. These are all the things that make me happy. And which of these seem the most fulfilling to you? Okay, and they pick a few, the video games, they're like, maybe that's not so fulfilling, you know, and raising your son, that seems really fulfilling, and maybe you designed and published a card game, that's really fulfilling. Okay, that seems really cool. And then you can just point out to them, look, all the things you put at the top take a lot of work, and all the things you put at the bottom are relaxation. And if you find honest kids and you're in a setting where you're not arguing with them, you're just having a friendly conversation about their life, and they like you and you're someone who they think is trying to help them, they'll honestly answer this question, and they'll realize like, oh yeah, like maybe happiness is something you have to work for. And maybe if you don't work for it, it doesn't actually make you happy. Like for example, raising my son, if someone else just came over and raised him for me, and then I just got to see the result 18 years later, would that be as fulfilling? Obviously not. Any honest person would say, no, of course not. Like the reason it's meaningful when he turns 18 and moves out is that you did that, right? That you did
yeah.
all that work. And if it was easy, it wouldn't feel as happy.
When you're 18, you're
Uh,
out the door.
yeah, well, okay, or whatever year it happens. Yeah, I just picked a number. But you see what I'm saying is, and I think when I have this conversation with high school students, they're very receptive. Then they go to college and they drink a bunch of intellectual poison, and it takes 5 years after they graduate before they can purge it from their body. Um,
You know what? Actually, this could be a topic for another video.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, I would say when you're talking to these people, you don't have to be open about this, but I try to figure out if people are college students or older. And if they're 21, I just kind of respectfully distance myself from them. And I'm like, I just kind of tell myself this person just needs some time to sort out their life because they're not ready to think about these ideas yet. And you can, like I said with the high school kid, you can leave some breadcrumbs about your own life. Say, well, here's my situation and here's how I feel about it, and here's the introspection I've done, and this is the conclusion I came to and why. And I hope that one day you reach similar conclusions. And then you can just leave it at that.
What
Um,
what do you think about these 21-year-old kids saying that they are speaking for all workers, all poor people?
oh,
And
I think they're just LARPing.
in most cases, I've I've spent time with poorer people, and
Uh-huh.
I lived my home was next to like a council house estate,
Yeah.
and my kids played with their kids, and I have more. And by the way, they're way more conservative than people think they are.
Definitely.
And I don't think that they have any clue who the people that they're talking for, but to some degree it also lends to the Marxist notion that these workers have a sort of false consciousness,
Yeah.
because of capitalism, and all this like gives these 21-year-old kids license to basically speak for these people who they've never met in
Yeah.
most cases.
And I think arguing with them about the nature of those people is again a red herring. And you just have to reframe it as, let's focus on your life first and you first.
Why would they accept that? They're trying to make the world a better place.
Why do they want to make the world a better place?
They need some kind of purpose in their life.
Okay. So they need some kind of purpose in their life.
Yeah, but
now
if you
that's
take
something
if you
now that's
if you
something you can work with.
but if you take this purpose away from them, they'll won't
You have to
accept
give
it.
them something else, right? This
They
is
won't
why,
accept.
despite all of his failings and religious confusions, Jordan Peterson
I knew you were
is
going to say
right.
that. I knew you
Yes,
were going to say that.
because you know what he does that
Yeah.
makes his project so brilliant
What's
is
that?
he has a behaviorist approach that tricks altruists into adopting egoistic behaviors, which then they can observe improves their lives and makes them happy. And then he misses the last step where you then get them to abandon the altruism. He thinks you can just keep the behaviorist approach forever. But this is what so many people realized, and why he was so popular is he said, yes, it is your duty to help other people and it is your duty to make the world a better place, but the only way you can do that is if you fix your life first. So do that first. And then what people realized is that after they did that part, they didn't care so much about the other part anymore. And so he basically tricked people into doing this introspection that I'm trying to get people to do. Now, he then maintained that the whole reason you're doing that is so that you can fulfill this greater duty, which is not good. But there is something he has right, at least on the marketing side, that I think we can learn from.
No, I really love it when objectivists talk about egoism a lot and how everyone is stupid for being an altruist, and then they themselves are the most charitable people ever. What do you do for a living again?
I'm a high school math teacher.
So you teach kids?
Yeah.
Probably not for like, probably it's not. I don't know. If you could have had better paying positions, it wouldn't be this, right? You enjoy this.
Yeah. And I'd
And you
say
like,
I enjoy my job more than all of my friends who have STEM jobs that pay more than mine.
and your own flies to all these countries, gives interviews in pubs and speaks sometimes for free, sometimes not for free, in front of university students. And here he is talking about about being selfish and everything. Well, it's like kind of like in action, it seems from a distance that it's a very like missionary kind of charitable existence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I'm open. Kids ask me why am I a teacher, and a lot of teachers will say stuff like, "Oh, do I want to make the world a better place? Oh, I want to help kids." I don't give them any of that crap, and they respect that. Like, I I enjoy it. It's fun. It's fulfilling. It's a challenge. I like figuring out how to explain things. I like, solving this puzzle. And it's funny how much more they respect you when they know that you're doing it for yourself.
Do they?
Just like Yaron has his example about the married person who tells their spouse, well, I don't really get anything out of this, but I'm just in it for you, and how like miserable it would be to hear that.
That's the
The
Ayn Rand
students are the same
example.
way. Yeah.
So that was the Ayn Rand example that she gave for Dostoevsky, where he actually did tell his wife, "I'm marrying you, but I don't love you. I'm doing it for you,"
Yeah.
and then she killed herself.
Yeah. That's horrible. Yeah. And so, uh
Can
with
I just
kids, it's
add
the same
something?
thing. Yeah. Hmm.
I think it's just very difficult to, well, even for me, I don't think I'm in that stage myself, where it's very difficult to detach kind of like the um how can I articulate this? So altruism is good in a sense. I'm not to most people, altruism is good because you're benefiting society, you're helping other people, and even I believe that some people, when they say that, they feel good just saying that. They feel
Hmm.
like, oh, it's the right thing to do.
Hmm.
But then, like, if you try to show them, well, if you act selfishly, the results of it are the same results you're speaking of in this altruism concept you're thinking about, but they're doing it for selfish reasons, and they enjoy it, and they like it, and they
Huh.
find it fulfilling.
Yeah.
How do you bridge these two concepts?
Well, I'll keep giving you the same answer. Introspection. You have to go after why are they an altruist now? And eventually, if you dig hard enough, what they get down to is, well, I just feels good when I know that I've helped someone. And when I put the work in and I improve their life, and I know that I've done that either because they say thank you, or I can see the results, or I just know that I've made a difference, then it just makes my life feel more meaningful.
But they put the
And then
work
they
in
now they've played right into your hands.
because they
It's
said I
like,
put the
oh,
work in. Yeah.
you're doing it because you want your own life to be meaningful, and this is the way that you want to do that. And then you can get them to say, um, would you do you think that it's good to make yourself miserable in order to help someone else? And if they're honest, they'll say no. And so I think they say that they're altruists, but they don't really mean it, not in the way that we do.
Mm.
They mean that helping other people is a value to them, and you
Well,
just have to show them that that can be true. That's egoistic.
I think to some degree that they would say that to just signal that they're a virtuous person.
Maybe, but I just and I can only talk about my experience with people I've had this conversation with. Um, but I'm starting to believe there are very few um, like honest and introspective altruists out there.
Okay.
Um, I think they are just confused. Some are lying, and many are confused. And they just haven't. People don't think about their own lives. They don't think about what will make them happy. They don't even think about who they are. And just getting people to do that is all the work.
Really?
Yeah, I really think so.
You think like mid debate you can stump someone, like
No, I don't think you can do
trigger
it
them to
mid debate,
introspect, and then be like, "Oh my
but I think
God,
that's
I've
the work
wasted
of.
years of my life." What?
Well, okay, now to be fair, it won't happen mid debate, but
Okay.
it might happen because you said that. People do have those moments. I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
know someone who has, where they go, "Man, I really have been doing this life thing wrong." Should really. I mean, and that's what Jordan Peterson did to people. Is they listened to one of his talks, or they read a chapter of his book, and they were like, "Man, I have really been approaching this life thing wrong."
Yeah,
And
that's
so
true.
he's kind of a case study in how ideas can really change how people approach life. Um, and so I think learning from his approach with even better ideas is something worth looking at. It's
That's
like,
really
hey,
interesting.
you're kind of miserable. It doesn't have to be that way. And here's some things you could try. And then when people try those things, and then see what they all have in common. It's like, oh, maybe thinking, introspecting, planning, working, maybe these are all good things that are worth doing. And then once they have that, then when someone comes and offers them a food stamp policy to vote for, they don't have to think, no, that's a violation of property rights, it's wrong. They just don't want it. They just say, no, that doesn't sound good to me. I don't want that. And that's why I
Reasonless.
think the whole rights issue is important, but it's peripheral. I think if people really are egoistic, then it doesn't even come up because they just don't want free things.
Interesting. The rights thing in and of itself is like a big philosophical debate.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit overemphasized. I mean, it's an important thing to know about and keep in mind, but on an individual basis, I think people just really don't understand egoism, and that's
they
what
avoid it.
will save them. Yeah, um, it's a shame, and they have all kinds of guilt and all kinds of habits and mind viruses that they picked up from university, and you know, or from religion, frankly.
Can can we save the topic
Mhm.
of the one you just raised
The
with regards
university
like,
mind virus.
well, you can add that, but like the snapping people out of it like Jordan Peterson does? Because
Yeah.
I think that's like a really fascinating topic that I like to dedicate more time to, because
Oh,
and
sure.
the reason why I'll say two reasons why. I saw like an interview recently, not like a discussion with Jordan Peterson and this black British woman
Mhm.
that said that she hated Jordan Peterson because of what her friends told her about it.
Yeah.
It's not really the point, but like,
Yep. I
but
know what you're
basically
talking
she
about.
hated him. Then something happened and she started listening to him. Was like, oh my god, he's so right. And without like the fanfare and everything, like the switch to me, just the switch is interesting.
Hmm.
And I
So
know.
a good exercise you can do about him is find some popular clips of him that are maybe like 8 to 10 minutes,
Mhm.
um, and watch them and kind of make a list to yourself about what he says that you think is true and what he says that you think is misguided or wrong.
Okay.
Um, because I really think there's value to mind there, but he does have some big errors. Um, and so I think if you can kind of separate those, you can pull out what's good about him and kind of slap the right ideas on it, kind of combine his presentation and charisma and pedagogy with the correct ideas. And
I would
then you get something really powerful.
I would say one more thing though to what could have
Yeah.
happened to
Uh-huh.
that lady. There's a lot of people that start off like being left, and even I was, well, a lot of people start off being left, and something snaps, not because of Peterson, but because they get attacked within their own community. Like they had a particular belief, and then someone said, and then like the left either becomes more extreme, and then they attack someone in the left attacks you, and you kind of snap out of it. You snap out of your tribalism. I've
Hmm.
noticed. And once you've done that, then you kind of like you're more open to more ideas. Like for
Yeah.
example, there was this famous lesbian in the LGBT community, and she was on YouTube. She is on YouTube, and you go from being on the left, or she went from being on the left then there was a position where they said something. Well, I'm not going to get into, because this is one of the topics I don't really like to talk. But it was
Hmm.
about trans people and how she preferred to date other women,
Hmm.
and she was ejected from the community, and now she's on conservative talking shows.
Yeah.
So
But
I
I
I
think
think
such people, they never stopped being tribalistic. They just switched teams, you know.
maybe.
Yeah. I think when they do that, I mean, you get the you don't want to be Dave Rubin, right?
Oh, he's getting such a bad name. I've seen some of the clips why though, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because that's basically I mean, there's this big thing of like you're a lefty populist Bernie type, you love communism, and then the people with the blue hair scream at you, so then you become a right winger who loves protectionism and nationalism, and
Yeah. No, I know.
it's
Yeah.
not any better.
No.
It's better in some ways and it's worse in some ways. I mean, it's kind of a wash.
I mean, there's a few people like that though. There's Dave Rubin is like, there's people who like were on the left. Let's say Dave Rubin, I think Candace Owens.
Yeah, sure.
Tim Pool was like at the thing with Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah.
And now it seems to be like, I don't know if they're like outright conservative. I think some of, sorry, that's probably the wrong phrasing. Yes, they are a lot more conservative, but it seems like they're anti-left. Like their whole thing now is, I was from you guys and you hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to dedicate my life to make fun of it. Because up till now, I was disagreeing with a lot of the positions before, but I just didn't say anything. Now I'm going to say everything.
Yeah. But it's just they're not they're not really seeing to the core of anything. I mean,
No.
they're just, well, here's a list of ideas, and other people who believe them got mad at me, so now I'm going to believe in this other list of ideas. They haven't really thought about any of them, and they just kind of like dialogue tree their way through everything. They're not really thinking at all.
To be fair to them, like attacking the left is very profitable nowadays.
Oh, and it's fun because they're ridiculous. So it's a very low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot to make fun of.
And maybe there's a shortage in like in terms of like news outlets or media outlets who do this outright, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanna end the video
You
now.
want to wrap it up?
Could you just hang on just for, oh, have we gone over a bit?
Sorry, what did you say?
Have we sorry, never mind. I'll hang up now the video. So we'll
Okay.
say goodbye, but just could you just hang on just for a few minutes afterwards, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so bye to the people at home.